Hi, hello, good evening. This is just another quick video for tonight. I apologise if the quality isn't that great. It's on my laptop. Again, I'm not very experienced at these sorts of things. Now, I was speaking earlier about how the book that I'm currently reading for Lent differentiates between the actual book the author wrote, Anna Todd, and the movie after, which is the only movie I have seen of the book adaptation of this book collection. There is actually 5 books in the collection, and apparently 3 of them have already been made into films. I haven't seen the other 2, and I haven't read any of the other books yet. So all I know about this book and this author is what I've found out over the last about 5 days since watching the film on Netflix. This is not paid production. This is just I've decided to read this collection for Lent after watching the film. Usually, as I've explained previous, I tend to watch the movies after I've read a book, not beforehand. Now, with this book, there has been over 11 million copies sold. But again, it's one of these books I think you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I just want to tell you now straight away that the film is completely different to the book. If you are a parent who wants their child to watch the film, I believe in the UK it has a PG rating. I will double check this. If you want them to then read the book, please don't let them do so unless they're over the age of 15. It is an extremely detailed novel into adult related themes. The movie actually waters down everything that is in the book. In the book, there is domestic violence. In the book, there's arguments about alcohol. There's physical abuse. There's emotional abuse. There's sexual abuse. Anything you can imagine that you probably wouldn't want your child to ever witness has probably already been covered in the first 100 pages of this book. I'm on the 200 mark now. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I did mention earlier about how the character Tristan was changed from being male to female, which I'm all for now because of the, you know, how people are more open and accepted to same-sex relationships. Now, one of the things that was obviously, as an adult and as a parent, it's got me about this book is how disturbing it is. I'm not a prude in any way, not if you've heard about my shady past. But one of the things I have noticed about this book is that 2 things are actually highlighted in the book that aren't actually mentioned in the movie, which I think are essential and should have been mentioned or at least covered. Now, on the, just trying to remember now what page, chapter 44, from chapter 44, you get a little bit more of like an insight into what the main 2 characters are like as individuals and how they are together. And one of the key things that you witness before that chapter briefly is how her relationship with Noah, it's officially not ended. He's giving her a second chance, but she's still spending time with Arden, which was something Noah didn't want her to do. She was serious about still being with him. And he takes her to try and find her first car, which is unsuccessful. And she meets Arden's dad, whereas in the movie, spoiler alert, she doesn't actually meet him until his wedding to his new bride, who is Landon's mother. But we'll get onto that later. And basically, prior to that, he had already lost his temper with Tess before in the book, and then after meeting his dad, we see this much darker side of him, this much more aggressive side of him, this public outcry of like, I don't care where I am, I'm going to lose my temper, I'm going to throw furniture in a public place. Luckily he didn't get arrested, because his dad spoke to him and spoke to Tess and invited them for dinner. So just over something like being invited for dinner has made him literally, it's like someone's flicked a switch and he's this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character. straight away, multi-personality disorder, schizophrenia, whatever you want to call it. That is what's actually happened. And yet it goes on to say, literally within the same sort of chapter, how Tess, although she accepts his behaviour, her mother has taught her, it actually says, if I can just find it, it actually quotes, um, it actually says, this is from Tess's point of view, but part of me insists that Harden needs to understand that I will not be yelled at. I have read this about 5 times, so I should know it. That is one of the redeeming qualities. So this is like her complimenting her mother. Probably the first time in the book this has happened so far, really, to be honest. Qualities I give my mother credit for. She showed me exactly how not to be treated by a man. And when I actually read that, I was quite shocked because I thought, hang on a minute, maybe the reason why Tess is allowing this toxic relationship between her and Harden to continue is because of her mother's relationship with her father. So we already know her father was an alcoholic. He left when she was 10. We know at this point, which we don't find out in the movie till later on, another spoiler alert, is that the exact same thing happened to Harden when he lived in London with his mother, that his father was an alcoholic and he left when he was around 10 as well. So if she already has this such redeeming quality of a mother that she thinks of really highly in that respect, where it's, you will not allow a man to treat you badly. I've taught you this. I've taught you not to allow this to happen. Then why is she letting it happen? That is what I can't understand. And then later, further on, it explains how Harden has nightmares. He has night terrors, which one of the questions a lot of people that have criticised the book and the movie is, why is he so aggressive? Why does this person fly off the handle? Why won't he let people stay in his room? Why won't he let people sleep over? Why doesn't he date? Well, part of dating somebody, I explained this earlier in one of my previous videos, is there's a difference between having a relationship with somebody as a friend, as a lover, as a partner. You know, there's difference between being married to somebody and dating them, just like there's a difference between having an intimate relationship with somebody and having sex. So if this person who they are talking about in the book can't physically spend an entire night with somebody knowing full well that he's likely to wake up screaming, then that would explain a lot as to why that doesn't happen. It would also explain why he doesn't allow people in his room. He's quite a very private person. His persona around campus is being a bit of a badass, being a bit of a punk. He's got all these tattoos, he's got piercings. Yet in his room, it's like he's, I suppose, in a way, like his little bit of fortress of solitude, if you compare it to like Superman and Clark Kent. A bit of DC in there, which is something I grew up with. Um, and it's very private. I mean, he's got books about romance on his shelf. If he's trying to make out to his friends that, he's a bit of a Jack the lad, he'll sleep with anybody, get what he wants, he's not going to want them to know that he's got all these, like, romance novels. But in a way, it kind of also shows that he's maybe using these quotes in order to pick up girls, in order to get girls to fall for him, so that he gets what he wants, but then he can leave them, but maybe not intentionally hurt them, because they can, be like, oh, although we didn't really date, we had a romantic evening together, and that's as far as it went. And sometimes that's better, you know. it, it's nice to have that sort of like flash in the pan moment where both of you walk away happy than to try and pursue something that ultimately could end in disaster, which is kind of what seems to be happening constantly between these two characters. She's wanting more, he's wanting more, but he doesn't want to accept the fact that he wants more because he's afraid of the fact that one of the issues he has, and he openly admits to her when they do spend the night together, is that this is probably the first time he's ever spent the night with a woman, ever had anyone stay in his house, stay in his personal space. And it is very hard to trust somebody that much to invade that kind of privacy. So it's kind of understandable why, you know, any other girl who heard that happen, that he's probably had a one night stand with, would probably be a bit jealous. But again, coming from my own personal experience, I hate people staying over. I hate people being in my home. I hate I will not sleep if somebody is in my house. When I was younger and I lived on my own, again, if people stayed over, I'd be like, oh, there's the sofa, you know, or if you want my bed, I'll go and sleep on the sofa. I physically found it so difficult to share a room or a bed with anybody.